Welcome back, everyone. We're diving into some really fascinating stuff today, all about responsibility, connection, and closure.
Yeah, your sources this time. Wow. So much to unpack.
And to help us explore these themes, we've got a whole cast of characters to meet. Alara, Daniel, Amanda, just to name a few.
And through their stories, we'll see how even small choices can have a ripple effect, how important communication is for building strong bonds, and how sometimes letting go can be the most powerful thing we can do.
So let's start with responsibility. The source material kicks off with Ilara, whose brother Alex is drowning in debt.
Ugh, yeah, that's a tough one. Should she bail him out? Let him learn a hard lesson.
Well, she decides to help, but with conditions. He has to pay her back and come clean to their parents.
Seems reasonable, but makes you wonder, is this really helping Alex in the long run? Or just delaying the inevitable?
Exactly. It blurs the line between helping and enabling. It reminds me of the concept of unintended consequences that pops up throughout the source material.
Like throwing a stone into a lake. Those ripples spread far and wide.
Love that analogy. And speaking of ripples, one of the sources mentions Rosa Parks, how her refusal to give up her seat on the bus sparked a movement.
Powerful example. Individual acts of courage can have such far-reaching consequences.
It makes you think about the impact of our own actions, right?
Okay.
Even the seemingly small ones. The source material even uses the example of a parent teaching their child to recycle.
Right. Might seem insignificant, but it can instill values that last a lifetime. It emphasizes how what we do affects others. What starts with us doesn't end with us.
So true. But responsibility is only part of the picture. Connection, I think, is what truly binds us together. And the source material introduces us to Daniel. He lands his dream job, relocates, and finds himself incredibly lonely.
It's a reminder that achieving goals doesn't automatically equal happiness. We need those meaningful connections.
Yeah, Daniel's story really highlights those different types of connections, right? Family, friends, romantic partners. They all contribute to a fulfilling life.
Like, take Daniel's sister. She reaches out, just offers a listening ear, and that makes a world of difference.
It's like Amanda, the graphic designer in the source material. She struggles to ask for help after a setback. But her friend Mia reminds her that relying on others isn't a weakness.
Exactly. Vulnerability is actually the foundation of strong connections.
Speaking of strong connections, Leah and Sam, they face some serious financial worries when Sam loses his job. But their partnership helps them weather the storm.
It proves that strong bonds act as anchors in tough times. But how do we cultivate those bonds in the first place? How do we nurture them?
Well, that's where communication comes in. And the source material really dives into this with the story of Anna and Carolyn.
A mother and daughter whose relationship is strained by years of, well, miscommunication.
Years of unspoken assumptions, too. And it's only when they finally have an honest conversation that things start to improve.
But real communication goes beyond just talking. It's about truly listening to the other person, trying to understand their perspective.
Like when Anna finally listens to Carolyn without judgment, it creates a space for empathy to grow.
And on the flip side, we need to express ourselves clearly so our words match our intentions. The source material uses Mark as an example. He gets passed over for a promotion and feels totally resentful.
Until he talks to his supervisor and gets some clarity.
Right, and that clear communication helps him move forward.
So, whether it's personal or professional, good communication is key. It takes active listening, clear expression, and a big dose of empathy.
Speaking of empathy, the source material gives some great advice on how to build it. First, listen more. Talk less.
It's harder than it sounds.
Definitely. Then ask open-ended questions to really understand someone's experience.
Instead of jumping to conclusions.
Exactly. And last but not least, withhold judgment. Remember that everyone is dealing with stuff we might not know about.
Like in the story about Lisa, that demanding colleague. When her team leader approaches her with empathy, he uncovers some hidden struggles that explain her behavior.
It's a good reminder that everyone is fighting a battle we know nothing about. Empathy can totally transform relationships, even in the workplace.
And speaking of transformation, let's talk about the impact of the past. The source material introduces Eleanor, who's dealing with some unresolved guilt and a strained relationship with her brother Max.
Their story shows how past traumas can cast long shadows, affecting our present relationships.
And avoiding those past hurts just makes things worse, right?
Absolutely. Which is why Eleanor's decision to confront her past is so important. She realizes she needs to acknowledge her pain and process her emotions.
It's a brave step. And the source material doesn't sugarcoat the challenges. It's raw, emotional.
But Eleanor's willingness to be vulnerable opens up a path for healing and reconciliation, and her vulnerability doesn't stop there. She starts opening